So I think the critical blocks here, right, is this question of like you said it yourself. All of this requires state capacity, right? In order for the government to play this sort of stimulative, productive role in the economy, you need to have a capable state. And I think that sometimes is where things can go wrong in Nigeria, right? Can a Nigerian government play this role when it doesn't really have a capable state? It doesn't really have a deep, competent bureaucracy that is well paid, right? Like, it's a chicken and egg problem. Like, how do you actually do this without a competent state? Or how do you answer that? How do you think about that?
Good question. You remember I started to it at the very beginning. I said rolling back the state before the state was ready. So you took actions that basically reduced the role of this. You taught people to think all you have to do is to snap your fingers and solutions will come. The value and everything is okay. Roll back the state, privatize and everything is okay. And then what you end up with is you reduce civil service salaries just by devaluation alone. So you've turned a man who was earning $1,000 to a man who's earning $250. Yeah, I'm equivalent. I'm just, but the point I'm trying to make is that, so we've eroded state capacity over time. But in fairness, it's one thing I can say that we are really trying to do. It takes a long time. In China, Confucius was the guy who started building a solid bureaucracy, but it's doable. I think it's doable. And I think we started, the head of service have done a great job on trying to retrain civil servants, on trying to focus on their welfare needs, on trying to extract performance from them, trying to motivate them, trying to give them equipment they need, but it will take time. But it started, it's been recognized, and one of the things I like about that effort now is that a key member of the private sector, Mr. Adeyemi, through his foundation, is really providing that support. So what you find is that annually now, civil servants are applying to those programs and doing well in those programs that help to give them the skills they need to cope in the modern era. So it will take a bit of time, but that effort is recognized, that need is recognized. And I'm optimistic that it would happen.
So do you think that there is a sequencing issue here as well? Do you think that Nigeria needs to focus first on raising the revenue it needs, improving its state competence, paying people better, and then sort of taking a more active role in the economy? Or do you think it needs to happen How do you think about it? It needs to happen simultaneously?
No. You don't have the luxury of sequencing. You have to learn to talk while you walk. I mean, it's just, that's the challenge, I think, of governance. Is how do you balance short term with long term? But perhaps also equally important, how do you coordinate within government so that the guy who is educating children is educating them to work in the digital economy, so to speak. In other words, as now that's why planning is important, properly done. So that, look, I'm heading in this direction. I'm going to need the skills that help me to work in that direction, right? I'm going to need the resources that help me to retrain people to work in that new direction. So everything is interlinked. I'm going to need a health system that underpins workers that are productive, healthy, and motivated. So, and guess what? I'm going to need power to enable those factories I'm trying to encourage. So you have to just learn to talk as you walk.
To do both.
You have to do it simultaneously. And that's the challenge, I think.
What about the people who say, because there's this sense, especially on social media in Nigeria, that the government is too big. The government is everywhere. And all we really need in Nigeria is to just get the government out of the way and things will work. So tell me why, I have some thoughts too, but tell me why you think what is wrong with that thinking?
Okay, two things I want to say. The first is that, it's been established that government in Nigeria is actually very small. Even just starting from the revenue to GDP ratio, you only control 7-8% of GDP. That's small. In some countries, government to GDP, revenue to GDP ratio is 35% in the developed world and about 17% in other parts of Africa. So you really cannot say that the Nigerian government is too big. Now, the question is, if it's too big, and I think that's the question you're really asking, is why is sometimes the public, why do they want government out of the way? Right. And I think it's because, whether we like it or not, Nigerians have become largely self-organizing, by which I mean they make arrangements for their own power, they make arrangements for their own water, they make arrangements for their own security. So sometimes they believe that, look, if you're not going to solve this problem for me, please get out of the way. But the truth of the matter is that it's an inefficient way to tackle large-scale things that require economies of scale. And I know that the public is usually impatient for results in difficult economic terms. And so what they just don't want is, look, get out of my way, as you said. Look, less hassles, less regulations, right? And then a more certain policy environment. Stop changing the rules in the middle of the game, so to speak. But the truth of the matter is that you do need regulation if you are going to have order in any business sector. So I'm not going to, we are not going to, for instance, let's use the medical profession. You're not going to say anybody can be a doctor if you want to be a doctor. Just get up and go. You know, there must be some regulation around that. Anybody cannot just be a banker just because you feel like lending money to people. So there must be some modicum of regulation in a modern economy. The question is, how do we do it in a way that it's not a hassle, it's not used to harass or to extort? I think it's the key challenge. Certainly, we shouldn't be driving around without a properly regulated road system. People have been licensed. People know how to use road signs and things like that. So I agree that there's some impatience when things are not the best. But I also feel that there is some need for regulation. Well, certainly a more certain policy environment. If policies are going to change, the reasons should be clear, and where possible, consultations should take place so that people know why it's being changed and why it would actually benefit them in the long run.